Okay, we are live. Meenakshi, you can start.
Okay. Should we start, Pooja?
Yeah.
Yes, start.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in. Some of you have been regularly participating in these webinars that we've been holding for the last couple of months. And Pooja and I basically have been doing these webinars for the education subject, and she and I will be co-hosting today's session. And this is an initiative by Enajori, which is a non-profit platform. And the main motive behind Enajori is that, it's basically an idea which is to engage and promote various kinds of initiatives. And it's striving for social change, leadership building, entrepreneurship, and other such work in Assam and the Northeast. So it's basically working as some kind of a network. It's also to connect people. And so during the course of the last few months, we've been engaging through virtual media and inviting speakers who have been working on a diverse range of issues. And we're trying to create some platform amongst people working in the Northeast or who have, previously worked in the Northeast. So we will be discussing, we have an amazing speaker with us today, and she is Panchali Tamuli. Panchali is basically, I'll just give a brief about her work. So Panchali is basically an education technology specialist, and she has 9 years of experience in implementing school-based programs. Panchali began her career as a project coordinator for the Action Research Project Child Labor and Education in Assam, whereon she moved on to get her master's in social work from Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai. And during her studies, she was part of the US-India exchange program, and she has also worked on sex education and behavior change communication with youth in New Orleans. In 2013, Panchali joined Tata Trust's Mumbai office as a development officer for the health unit. But soon she found her passion and interest in a program called Integrated Program to Technology in Education. She began working on that project in 50 schools in Assam, which has now scaled to more than 300 schools in the state. And she later moved on as she managed a project across 8 states conducting teacher professional development, classroom interaction with students and teachers, programmatic support to implementing partners, and liaising with the government departments on a meaningful integration of technology in teaching and learning. In 2020, Integrated Approach to Technology in Education has also received the E-Northeast Award in the category Quality Education and Learning for their comprehensive work in bottom-up ICT-based impactful learning with young students and dropouts in the state of Assam. So she's been primarily working on the issue of education across the state. And she's a certified teacher education qualified by the AOFRI International Training Center, Israel. She spent a month working with the teacher training centers in Israel on understanding the active role of technology in learning, teaching, and continuous professional development. Currently, Panchali is based out of Glasgow, where she is doing her further studies on education, public policy, and equity. So today we will be discussing primarily on education in Assam, her work, what she has experienced, her experience mainly, and we will try to focus a little bit on education technology in the current scenario, or perhaps in a post-COVID situation, how we can think of new interventions and educate a way forward in the sector of education. So I'll hand over to Panchali. Thank you.
Thank you, Meenakshi. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you, Meenakshi. That was quite an elaborate introduction. I don't think I deserve that much, but yes. Thank you. And thank you for inviting me to speak here and share my experiences. I'm actually very delighted to do anything that is related to Assam. And one of the major reasons why I took up this educational technology was because the project started, not started, but the project in Assam began in a place, Nalbari, which is very close to my heart. So that's where my journey as an education technology started. So should I start my presentation? I have a brief presentation. And
yes, ma'am, you can start.
Okay.
You would be sharing a PPT, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, we can see your screen now.
okay. Am I good to go?
Yes.
Yes, yes, good to go. Perfect.
Yeah. So, so when Pooja in Meenakshi was telling that I have a session and a discussion on digital technology, STEM education, how do we look technologies, and how do we see Assam in this picture? I constantly kept on fighting about what could be a theme, what could be the basic premise of this whole today's discussion. So then I realized that digital technology is not the future anymore. It's all about today, and it's all about how we are doing it today, and it's all about how our teachers on a daily basis are struggling and at the same time accomplishing to use digital technology in their continued education. So before we move to the COVID situation and what is happening now, I would like to share some snapshots from the field while I was working on this project called Integrated Approach to Technology in Education. Integrated Approach to Technology in Education was started by Dr. Amina Charanya through the Tata Trust, and we worked in 8 states. Primarily, our focus has been Assam and West Bengal. I have been to most of these schools and met quite a number of teachers and students, but I think I'm very biased when it comes to my experiences in Assam. And I get very touched by how children in Assam, especially from the government school and especially from very remote locations, come up to me and show their life projects. So that's why I thought that most of the snapshots from the field are from specifically the implementation in Assam government schools. So here you can see the children are actually presenting their work on a larger platform. This is a project where they're showing classroom status, classroom male-female difference. Then the other girl, I still can't figure, but they're using a spreadsheet to show how they have progressed on their progress on their projects. So while making projects, they use digital technology, and this digital technology is not actually the primary focus. The primary focus is developing the 4 competencies, what we call as the 21st century competencies or the 21st century skills, the 4 C's: communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and collaboration. So in doing so, we encourage our children to talk across schools, to talk across, sometimes it's across national borders, because again, the platform of digital media does not have any restriction when it comes to collaborating and communicating. So what we have seen is that digital technologies not necessarily mean teaching computer science or teaching digital application, but how do we teach core subjects like science, like maths, and interestingly, even linguistic subjects like English, like Bengali, or like Assamese, while using digital technology. So how do we use digital technology to make a child future ready? That's what we have seen. And when they are actually communicating and collaborating with children across schools and across borders, they're actually working on core topics which are related to their textbooks. But then again, they're using digital technology and they're becoming technology savvy. Most of the projects are research based. one of the things that I've seen from the students is that they own the project, and the kind of research that goes into their project, they stand by it. And then there is a core belief that this is how they have worked on. I mean, this is the best statement that I ever got from a child, was that टीचर तो है ही, टीचर तो अगर प्रॉब्लम हुआ तो टीचर के पास तो जाना है, लेकिन पहले हम इंटरनेट में देख लेंगे, अगर नहीं हुआ तो टीचर के पास जरूर जाएंगे. So there's a lot of such episodes that I will keep on talking throughout this session today. But for me, from my experience, embedding digital technology is not about digital learning, but it's about how we use digital tools and digital technologies to enhance students' capacities in terms of learning subjects. And then in the process, how do we encourage our teachers and enable our teachers to adapt to the changing environment? So one of the core things that I've learned is, when you're doing project-based learning, and of course there are syllabus mandates and larger curriculum framework mandates, but then when the children are working on their projects, we would really appreciate and we would really like the teachers to encourage children using their own language. Here you can see Bengali on the screen, and it's about metal and non-metal. Again, using digital technologies in learning and teaching is a gradual process. But again, that doesn't mean that we only stick to learning MS Word and MS Excel, or only learning the basic tools. We have to gradually progress. And when we move in a progression, we also increase the difficulties in the projects that we give to the children. So they move from, say, working on metal, non-metal on a presentation using MS PowerPoint, to working on metal, non-metal using Scratch, where they make games on metal, non-metal. Here you can see a Scratch. This is if anybody has questions later, I could explain more what is a Scratch, but on the left-hand side, you can see a Scratch application. On the right-hand side, you can see Audacity, where the children have used their voice notes to record information and to record their analysis about communicable diseases. This is the best part about digital technologies in teaching and learning, which has now drastically changed because of COVID-19, is that digital technologies is not computer class. It's not a computer room. It's beyond, it's open. You need a device. Definitely you're device dependent. You are connectivity dependent, but a teacher and the students can move beyond the classroom walls, and world is the limit. If you have followed me throughout the last 10 minutes, I guess, you will realize that I'm constantly talking about how digital technologies can be used in learning, what are the different competencies that can be developed through this. But what is critical in this whole journey and process is teachers. For the longest time, there was this debate that technologies are going to replace teachers. And I do understand that in places where there is teacher scarcity, you can bring in digital technologies to meet that deficit. But where there is teacher and where digital technologies can be meaningfully used, it's actually the teacher who makes that meaningful connection. So teachers work on their lesson plans, and teachers do make an effort that an appropriate application is used for a particular subject content. Um, so I really see that in the coming years, that teachers are actually the main uh, whole are the main torch barriers of digital technologies, and how digital technologies will shape in the education field. Now, I chose this picture just to understand, just to show you that this is, again, it's in a classroom. It has 4 walls. But why I chose this picture is that you just can't make out where the teacher is. There's a class going on. Students are working in groups on their projects in front of a computer. And trust me, they're making meaningful projects here. But then I really like the fact that the teacher is being a facilitator, a monitor, rather than being an instructionalist. Is everyone with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we take questions here, or do we move to the COVID session?
Yeah, it's better you finish up your presentation and we can take questions after that.
We can take question also if you feel like, you know.
Yeah.
I have a
Yeah.
question though. When you
Yeah.
are bringing about all this digital medium of teaching in Assam, I mean, that's great. But in Assam, in the interior villages, specifically now when the flood is going on, many places there
True.
may not be electricity. You know, how, you know, feasible is it, you know, to, you know, do they have even, and I'm sure that they do not have laptop. That means they have to have their cell phone. Do most of the people have cell phone? What is the percentage of kids who have, whose parents or somebody might have cell phone? When you're
So I'm
talking about,
talking, yeah.
okay,
Can
sorry,
I just
go ahead.
add into what Milind just said? Because I absolutely echo what Milind said.
Mm.
Because, you know, some of the schools that I also closely work with in tea garden areas or, you know, char areas of Dhubri and other places. I mean, I know that this is, you know, digital technology is the today. It's not even the future. It's what we are currently adapting to. And that's what will perhaps very soon become the norm. But at some level, I also feel that it is becoming very much of a detached process when we become completely, you know, dependent on technology. And how do we deal with situations like Milind just mentioned, when, you know, a state like Assam, which has the perennial problem of the flood, or for that matter, you know, there was this recent case of a child committing suicide because, you know, the deep-rooted poverty or so many other factors that come into the picture. And when these issues are there, how do we really talk about, you know, getting a laptop or a smartphone for a child and just, you know, adapting to such an environment? Yeah.
True, absolutely true, because this is a problem that is, I won't say perennial, but it's something that's been there, and that's what my next section actually talks about. How do we create ecologies which help us deal with situations that are beyond digital? But to do digital education, we have to deal with issues which are topographical, which are related to socioeconomic conditions, which are related to mental health, which are related to teacher preparedness. So I do agree with both of you, but then we are also learning. It's in the process, and I have worked in chore areas, I have worked in flood prone areas, and most of the schools that we work now in, 300 of them, are actually almost 80% are flood prone areas. So as of now, I'm not talking about devices per child. There is a concept of one laptop per child. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about where we get systems which provides schools with minimum requirement of laptops or desktops and connectivity, because as per the policy, these are to be provided to the schools. Am I making sense?
Yes, yes, yes. We're there.
Yeah. So as of now, I am not talking about situations which are outside the school. And trust me, embedding digital technologies become more volatile as soon as this whole physical structure of a school and the physical structure of the classroom as we understand today breaks down. And that's when we realize that digital technologies is not just about getting laptops or it's not about getting internet, but it's about the environment outside, which is socioeconomic, topographical, family conditions, and the larger society. So I do agree, and I don't have very specific answers. It has always been a challenge, but yeah, but we work and things are working, and supposed to get partners together, because not every organization, not every department, or not every teacher is fully equipped. We need to create ecologies, and that brings me to the next point. Can
Yeah,
I
just interrupting you. So when you talk about ecology, you are talking like the work that you have done is from an civil society perspective. So what is the role of the government? Like, how are you bringing them into the whole ecology, or the, the landscape that you have laid for digital technology or digital education?
Yeah, yeah. So the current ecology that we in our project have is that we'll work in the government schools. The equipments and the internet connectivity will be provided uh, through a private partner in understanding or in an association with the government. The government is responsible for all the equipments, and we have been working with government teachers. So it's a project that is spearheaded by the government, especially in Assam. I must say that the RMSA, the then RMSA, has been really supportive and really like on the ground, ensuring that equipments, devices, internet connectivity is available. Though again, we had arm's length organizations. Arm's length organizations are service providers like Educom or say DEF, who gave us the internet. But there's a whole what we again call is a big environment of smart partnership where government has been a key role in Assam. So
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, carry on.
Yes, ma'am, Tamashwini Barua.
Yeah,
I think that's Ruby.
yeah, I am Tamashwini Borwa, teacher educator, Diocese of Sagar Sonari. Am I audible to all of you?
Yeah.
Please go on.
Right now, Panchali has said about collaboration. In this regard, I want to say that in Assam, along with the central government, has taken a very good initiative. It is called NISTHA, National Holistic Development for Teacher Education, where all teachers have been trained with the phones and other digital technologies, and which is soon going to be implemented in all the schools of India. And we are working on it, and we are working on an application called Vidyadan. Well, probably everyone has known about it.
true.
So that is the another thing initiative government is taking, and I think that the bridge, the gap, will soon be fulfilled once after the COVID situation.
True. I am biased, I said, when it comes to Assam and Assam systems. Assam, in terms of embedding digital technologies, I am here to talk about my project. But if you go onto the website and you want to see the different initiatives, they actually have a lot of digital technologies initiative in terms of subject platforms, in terms of teacher professional development, in terms of model schools and digital technologies, in terms of the Atal Tinker Lab, where they are initiating collaboration with the central government to create uh, more collaborative and critical thinking labs. So yeah, there is a host of things that the government in Assam is doing, but in particular to our initiative, they have been a parallel support. Yes.
Great. Like, can we proceed with your presentation? Then we'll start taking up questions.
Sure. So I am assuming that it's not assuming, I know it's far more complicated in Assam. I am sitting in a far better position when it comes to COVID-19. But again, digital technologies are connecting all of us. So no matter how many challenges and whatever the difficulties, we are in the era of digital technologies, and we need to use and harness this opportunity. And that's where we come to this situation, to this understanding of how do we cultivate digital ecologies. And this is in theory, I must say, this is what I'm working on, and we still do not have concrete examples from India. Though there are people like Dr. Amina Charanya, who has worked on smart partnerships in a few cases, but digital ecologies in Assam and in India in general is a very new concept. So we all know that due to COVID and due to school closures, we are having the struggle of continuing education. And for the longest time, because of the school closure, almost 80% of students were not having any kind of educational engagement. But with the recent movement, like schools are now transferring and using digital medium to connect back to the students and to continue education, to teach. So before we move into that, this is a theoretical framework put forward by Nikki Davis and her colleagues. And this talks about how the classroom is not an independent four-walled structure of a teacher and a student, but it has a complex network of influencers that influence how a teacher uses digital technology or any kind of technology or any kind of teacher learning material to interact with the student. And it starts with a basic understanding that what kind of technology do we have for the student or for the teacher? Is it a laptop? Is it a mobile? Is it a desktop? What is the kind of teacher pedagogy? What are the teachers comfortable to use technology, not comfortable to use technology? What kind of product is used in that particular device? And these are all influenced by, say, the political, which is our government, the bureaucratic, the professionals, and the civil societies actually include in the professionals. Then the commercials. And if you know that digital technology in India and overall in the world is a very, very private domain, and there are a lot of private players with their products in the market, and it's very, very market driven. So when we are talking about ecologies and we are talking about the changing nature of classroom, we have to understand that it's not anymore about the teacher and the student and a four-walled structure. It is a big and it's a big society where everything is networked and where everything is dependent on market and information. So these are some of the words that I've been hearing recently. And when Pooja and Meenakshi, we were discussing about what can we talk about digital technologies, something that kept on hitting my head is that how 5 years back, we understood digital technologies as a disruptive innovation which was going to change the traditional way of teaching. And when I say 5 years back, this is when like it became like we need to do something with digital technology, but we don't know. But internationally, this whole understanding about disruptive environment existed long time back, way in 1990s when the computers came in. So we've seen digital technologies in education for the longest time. And it depends on which region or which area we are in the world. How long has been that period that digital technologies has been considered as a disruptive innovation. There was a big resistance between the teachers and the school leaders and students of how to use digital technologies. Do we use digital technologies? But due to the novel COVID-19, the whole education system has been disrupted. So now, in this disruptive environment of school closures and home learning, the disruptive technology and innovation has become the key, has become the recovery process, which was never envisaged by anybody until last year. So blended learning, how do we combine offline and online learning together to keep teaching our students or keep the learning processes on for our students? Which kind of device do we use? Do the children where initially where the parents were a secondary factor, now that home learning has become a new norm, are the parents able to afford a device? Are the parents able to afford connectivity? What is the kind of education level of this parents so that the parent can support in digital learning for the students? Because the teacher is at length, the teacher is not there. One of the research papers that I was I was reading about Scottish teachers is that they do not understand what is the feedback because they are at a length. They do not understand what is the feedback from the students. So the assessment process, the feedback process needs to change. Then sorry.
Can you please?
Yeah, you can go
Actually,
continue.
carry on.
I love this thing about technologies. You always get disrupted, and that's where disruptive technology comes in picture.
Yeah.
So again, the student community itself is not a homogeneous community. Few of them, especially in Assam, which is still grappling to digital technologies, you will find urban pockets where urban and semi-urban pockets where the students are native learners of technology. They have used technology from 6-7 months of their coming to this world. So many of them are even more equipped than the teachers. Teachers have a very I don't like to use the word typical or traditional, but because of lack of any other word, I am using that they have a very standardized way of delivering their lessons. They have a very methodical process of teaching and learning. So how do we grapple all this? Like, it's not about, it's a struggle of changing environment between teacher and student and the teaching learning process, but in such a huge connected and networked society. So how do we go about all this? And it's not something that we'll just get an answer tomorrow. Everybody has to work together to build on it. So some of the key things when I was doing my secondary research is, while grappling with this changed environment of continued education through home learning, is that there is a digital divide. There is a definite digital divide, and a place like Assam, it is very visible. And there are innovative educational processes which is available with private players, with government departments and civil societies, which can be harnessed on. So how do we balance this digital divide with the educational innovations is what this whole ecology is talking about. We do understand that there is an infrastructure issue, there is a connectivity issue, and inequity is a problem in general in the country, in India. So as you go further, you are divided by male, female. Your access to digital technologies will be determined by your gender, will be determined by where you stay, will be determined by your age, will be determined by who your parents are, where they have come from, and how much they can afford to. It's a sad reality, but it's truth. And we've been reading on and off again and again how students are committing suicide for not being able to access learning processes because their parents can't afford it. We've been hearing about teachers being humiliated because their literacy, like their digital literacy skills are questioned by the students, are questioned by parents. Teachers are mocked. So it's not just about the student, but it's about the student and the teacher who are equally struggling in this changed environment. But at the same time, we have civil societies, we have government initiatives, we have private partners who are releasing learning tools and resources on a daily basis. We need to keep ourselves on track with every like technology changes on a daily basis, so we need to keep track on it, and teachers and students are on a constant lookout for how better these processes of teaching and learning can be done. There are different kind of teacher and learning methods. We knew about rote learning. Then we knew about instructional. Even in digital technology, is the digital technology used by the teacher only to deliver content? Is the digital technology used by the teacher and the student to interact, to collaborate, to create what we say 21st century products? And then, of course, there is a huge space which comes up with service support in terms of providing assistance to teachers, like teacher professional development, teacher preparedness, and these are players ranging from government sector to private sector, and then the civil society trying to mitigate everything. So how do we balance is the challenge. So I would like to leave you all with a question, and especially if there are teachers who are watching it, is that how does digital technologies interact with curriculum and pedagogy in a more meaningful and in a more engaging way, even during challenging situations and like COVID-19, like flood situations, because at the end of the day, education is all about creating future ready individuals, creating, am I audible?
Yeah, Panchali.
Okay. Yeah. So I leave everyone on that. Yeah. This is something that's disturbing me again and again. So I would like to chat, like to leave this with everyone else. Thank you.
Yeah, that has been a quite an informative and like, you know, something we need to think about. So for which we are really thankful. Like we have a lot of people who would like to ask. Like Rajiv, can you come up with your question?
Oh, no, I was just applauding actually. I don't have a question as such. I was just applauding.
Okay, so let me start by asking you. So, like, let us unfold the kind of discussion we had till now. Like, when we talk about digital technology, like when you said 5 years back, it was taken as a destructive, idea to start on. So, when you started, what are the kind of challenges you actually face to introduce technology to say to Assam, to schools, now teachers? So if we why I feel the need to talk about past, because then we'll understand how, like, it has been accepted or welcome in the current situation. So we would like to know about your experience of how you or the project that you carried forward or introduced in Assam had taken technology or the acceptance level in the initial stage. So how much it was taken up?
In terms of students, teachers, government, how do you want to? What kind of acceptance? Because every level has different level of acceptance, but it was a high acceptance in Assam.
Okay, so let's start with teacher, then let us go to students.
Okay. So what we did was, even before starting the project, even before starting this whole concept of integrated approach to technology in education, our lead conducted a teacher professional session on about a different model of pedagogy. It's not about digital technologies, but it's about how do we use digital technologies while teaching subject matter. It's called a TPAC model. I'm pretty sure teachers who are like currently in the profession will know about TPAC model. Kohler and Mishra started it, and it's very common when it comes to digital technologies. It's a model. It's basically a Venn diagram where the technological pedagogy, the content, and the teacher knowledge comes together, and how teachers use this to teach curricular concept. So even before introducing digital technologies, we worked on pedagogical shift. And that's where many teachers came up with issues like, oh, we have to complete syllabus. There is a need of sticking to the timetable. There is a need to stick with the there is a limited time that every session has in a school. Will we be allowed to go beyond this when it comes to teaching? So all these were gradually addressed on a school level through our volunteers. and on a daily basis. So it was again, I am not a very methodological person, but then it had a very gradual process that first we did the teacher training, then we went to the school, addressed problems of each teacher. But then again, it's not a very sustainable process of doing this. So what we now also encourage is teachers themselves talking about how they use digital technologies. So yeah, so the acceptance, so to create acceptance among teachers, we had to work at both at multiple levels in terms of teacher preparedness, in terms of classroom interaction, in terms of school administration, in terms of government permissions. So yeah, I hope I answered that, Pooja.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you
And-
talk about children?
It's easier with the children because they get to go beyond their textbooks. They get to work on a laptop or a desktop with 10 other friends of theirs. So it's much easier with the children. But with the COVID situation, it's a little different because now they're all independently sitting in their own houses. But we still have, even though I am not directly connected with the project now, but then they still conduct webinars online where the students work online collaboratively. And there are situations where might be the internet is not working with the student, or might be, so there's no fixation that a student has to have a laptop or a mobile or a whoever. Even if the student is accessing a webinar through phones, it's like win-win situation for us. So it's a little different now with the changing situation. Yeah, but the
Okay.
students are accepting.
Okay, I have just another question. Once you started introducing technology to schools, do you see a change in the school dropout rate in terms of, like, male, female students? Like, how technology brought students back? Because in classroom interaction, there can be many reasons why children had to drop out. So have you seen any visible changes where you were able to, with technology being introduced in school, that you could actually bring children to schools?
See, bringing children to school has been in two levels. One is schools, government schools in Assam. Uh, I don't have the picture now, but they actually, in their admission, when they are uh, listing out their admission posters, they actually mention that they have this program called Integrated Approach to Technology in Education, where you learn computers innovatively. So that's one way of attracting parents and students who are out of school. But there's another way of getting students is that we do very specific workshops with the identified dropouts. And we have a partner in Assam, and I must mention them. They are called Gramya Vikas Mancha, and so they do specific workshops with this dropout. And when they're doing this, they're also doing digital technologies. And then what we do is in those workshops, few days we are doing the workshops in the campus and few days in the school. And the student or the child gets a flavor in, I'm sorry again to use that word. This is due to lack of any other word. They get the flavor of how it is to use digital technologies and how it is to have more interactive and collaborative and more accepting learning in schools. I'm not saying it's an easy process. I'm definitely not saying, and we do not have 100% success rate. But then we have, we are also proud to say that there are many dropouts who are now graduates, have completed their 10th and 12th and are in STEM courses. So again, it's something to be it's something to be worthy. Yeah.
Okay, Panchali, I'll just come in here, and you've been talking about a number of very important issues, from pedagogy to accessibility, and how, if we were to look at it from a gender perspective, it's also about access, who has access to, the kind of technology that is currently changing. So I don't know if this is really a question. I'm just trying to think about the issue from a gender perspective, because primarily that's the area that I work in. So, in a post-COVID scenario, there's a lot of things that has changed, and there's a lot of talk that's been going on, particularly, how most of the burden is now on the woman, because she's, we have always spoken about double burden or triple burden, and a lot of care work in the household, apart from the fact that the woman goes to the office. Now maybe she's at her house, working from home. And particularly if I were to speak of a teacher, but at the same time, she's also having to do a number of other chores in the house, So because you spoke of, how teachers are being mocked at by parents. They're under constant critical eye of the students as well as parents, because teachers may also lack capacity in terms of, their digital literacy. So how do you really look at, care work, the gender perspective, and how there's a double or a triple burden on the teacher now, because she's also having to adapt. Before she teaches the student, she's also required to gain that skill. And this is a time which was so unprecedented. This is absolutely something that we never imagined. We are living a very important time in history now. Yeah. So I'm just trying to critically look at this. And also my second part of the question is, because you have worked here primarily since the beginning of your career, you've worked here across Assam. I also want you to just look at the whole issue from, what was your experience here? And when you're sitting there in Glasgow now, I of course do not want to know what are the problems we have. All of us know what the problems of Assam are. But do you see any strength that the state might have in terms of our, capacities, something which might be very indigenous, something which might be very specific to the state per se, and which would actually help in looking from a absolute fresh lens when we talk of a change in the educational scenario? I hope I made sense. Did you get me, Panchali?
Yes, I will first answer the second part and then go back to the
Sure. Yeah.
It's technically not an answer. No, I mean, yeah, but this is again my opinion, and I think what Assam has, and that might be true for many other places, but I have worked very, very closely with the teachers in Assam, and in general, the adaptability of teachers in Assam and the acceptance level is very, very high. We really need to work with the teachers and teacher educators to get this whole changed education system in place. I know of many teachers in the state who are doing absolutely gorgeous work in trying out how WhatsApp and in trying out how Zoom and in trying out different digital platforms to not just deliver the course content, but to encourage students to interact and to at the same time learn their subject material. So I think we need to tap that in terms of the state. I'm not saying it is very unique to Assam, but then I know of many cases where teachers are very, very innovative. So yeah, we need to tap that.
Panchali and also my co-host, we have been requested to cater to as many languages as we can, not just specifically stick to English. That would be nice. Please.
Thank you. Thank you, Shanta madam. Like apuni ei kotha tu ulaise karne. So eta Ohomiyate khudi disu. So like etia enuka hoise je টেকনলজিটোতো আমাৰ সন্মুখতো টানি দিছে কোভিডে চবকে বাধ্য কৰি দিছে যে আমি টেকনলজি ইউজ কৰো ল'ৰা ছোৱালী শিকাবই লাগিব বাট যেতিয়া নাও ইউ ইন এ ডেভেলপড কাণ্ট্ৰি চ' তাৰ পৰা কি লাৰ্নিং এক্সপিৰিয়েঞ্চেছ আমি ল'ব পাৰো লাইক technology wise they might be using far better technology than what we are using right now but right now you're in Glasgow so or like anywhere in the world do you think there are some আমি কিবা এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ লাৰ্নিং এক্সপিৰিয়েঞ্চেছ ল'ব পাৰো যোনটো আমি ইণ্ডিয়া বা ইন আছাম পাৰ্ছে এপ্লাই কৰিব পাৰো নেকি চ' যোনটো মানে ইণ্টাৰকানেক্টিভিটি লাইক ডিজিটেলি হৈ আছে চ' হাউ ডু উই মেক ইট ইন আ মোৰ concise like in a close knit way so do you have like any learning experiences where we can we can somehow have we can use it in India or Assam
Thank you, Pooja. আমি start কৰিব লাগে ন আমাৰ system মই যিটো বস্তু শিকিছো ইয়াতে is কি problem আছে challenges আছে আমি তাতে আৰম্ভ কৰিব লাগিব আমি এটো জানিব লাগিব যে আমাৰ specific problem to কি আমাৰ specific problem flood নে আমাৰ specific problem socio-economic barrier নে আমাৰ specific problem অসমত gender এইবিলাক বস্তু আগতে problematize কৰিব লাগিব digital technologies to এটা digital technology কতো না যায় COVID-19 এ এটো আমাৰ সমুখত লৈ আনিছে আৰু বহুতো টিচাৰ বা বহুতো not just education professionals but বহুতো বেলেগ ধৰণৰ professionals they're struggling to adapt to it so আমি এটা কে যদি আমি problem বিচাৰি আগবাঢ়ি যাব পাৰো আৰু আমি যদি টিচাৰ আৰু হেড টিচাৰ ইয়াতে মই এটা বস্তু দেখিছো যে ডিসেন্ট্রালাইজেশন টু দ্য কোৰ আৰু ডিসেন্ট্রালাইজেশন ইজ নট কি holding accountable to the teachers but how do you also give independence and flexibility to teachers তেওঁলোকে কেনেকে কি ধৰণে বস্তু এটা শিকাব খুজিছে হেতু টিচাৰক ইন্ডিপেন্ডেন্স দিব লাগে but at the same time they should be accountable there needs to be a very systematic balance between decentralization and centralization and it's not just in terms of budget it should be in terms of practice
yeah anyone have any question like come unmute yourself and ask like we would really like to hear from our participants
I actually can see questions on the group chat
yeah
Can I start with that
yeah I think Ruby have a question but we have discussed about it but can you elaborate about it
so the question is what are the digital technology that you are working to make the students skilled for 4Cs any example so আমি প্ৰথমতে বেসিকৰ পৰা আৰম্ভ কৰো বেসিক বুলি এটো নহয় যে আমি সার্কেল কেনেকে পাওয়ার পয়েন্টত আঁকিব লাগে that is not where we start 4Cs is basically for example we want to work on agriculture we want to work on the subject is environmental science and we want our students to learn about fertilizers and that is the teaching learning objective so
What is 4C? First of all, what is 4C?
4C is collaboration creativity critical thinking communication
Who is our government officer also don't know, but anyway, okay.
I will I'm not sure about that I've met
Okay.
I am very, I have worked closely with few of government departments. So I know that there are people who know and there are people who don't know. So it's a mixed balance. Huh? So yeah. So this is what 4C stands for. It's 21st century skills, which are perennial skills, but changed because of digital technologies. Collaboration আগতেও exist কৰিছিলে, cooperation আগতেও exist কৰিছিলে, communication আগতেও exist কৰিছিলে, but because of digital technologies, the whole horizon of these 4Cs have expanded. So how do we use technologies to do this 4Cs? Is to either encourage students to do project-based learning or problem-based learning. বহুত জায়গাত যেনেকে Singapore বা ICSE board, there is a separate subject called design and technology, which only works on how do we encourage students to work on 4Cs. So, kintu ami keneke kori asu, we will do it through teaching them math, science, English, social science, and at the same time work on their 4Cs. How do we do that? The teachers, when I say I mean the teachers, the teacher designs the lesson plan in such a way that they encourage, they give a particular project to a student. And again, project-based learning is nothing new. It always existed. But how do we work on these techniques is the question, is the challenge. So for example, I was telling about agriculture sciences where we want to teach the student about fertilizers. So we create a problem or a project around it. When we create a problem, the teacher might say that, oh, we need to grow in so and so land, alu kheti koribo lage. So ki fertilizer, ki dhorne fertilizer use koribo. So then the students are then divided into groups. They also do field visits. Sometimes if they cannot do field visits, they do, they are totally dependent on the teacher and the internet, but and of course the textbooks. But if they can, if the teacher can spare time and can plan accordingly for a field visit, then students also go for field visits. In the process, they will find out about different kinds of fertilizers, what is a artificial fertilizer, what is a natural fertilizer, and how can they use it, especially to grow potatoes. In the whole process, they will learn about weeding, they will learn about fertilizing, they will learn about tilling. So it's basically teaching the same concepts, but through a project-based or a problem-based activity. Did I answer, Ms. Thakuria?
Hello, Panchali.
Ha.
Yeah, I have a question. Tamashini Borua.
Oh, please.
I have a question. Actually, I have faced certain problems. I have adopted a school, a government school, and during this adoption process, I faced one problem. Most of my students are first generation learners in the school. Okay, and the teachers were also very apprehensive to use educational technologies. So can you actually help me out in adapting my school in a better way? Because I find lots of problems with the teachers, with the head teachers, as well as the students, because you cannot think about technology. They are actually the first generation learners. So how can I integrate actually educational technologies in this type of schools?
Just to put a disclaimer at the beginning, just because they're first generation learners, we don't need to keep them deprived of digital technology. But again, just
sorry.
I'm saying the whole audience. I'm telling it to everyone.
No, just now another question I want to add. Actually,
okay.
Most of them are also coming from below poverty line background. So that is the only thing that they cannot use technology. I have thinking about one school to donate one, it is a smartphone in the school. Will it going to work for them?
See, there's no Miss Borua, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no straight cut answer here. I would say you have to, this is again an experiential learning for you, because you'll have to identify the correct device. And I'm not sure that just because you have adopted a school, you will have to do everything on your own. You might have to look out to uh, create a ecosystem, which I really love. So you have to create your ecosystem, how this is going to work. I do understand that there is a lot of apprehension among teachers, especially when they are first generation learners. But do you want to try a technology which is very, very, very basic and just try with audio visuals and just recording them at some point? These are just random ideas that I'm telling, not introduce
Okay.
project-based learning or problem-based learning at one go, but use, say, how do you write alphabets on a computer or on a desktop? Or is this a government school that we're talking about, or a government aided?
Yeah, it's a government school in a T-tribe area.
Okay. So it has to be very specific. There are broader frameworks to it. কিন্তু যেতিয়া আমি এটা স্কুলৰ কথা ভাবো, আমি সেই স্কুলৰ প্ৰব্লেম লৈ পেলাই আৰম্ভ কৰিব লাগিব। এইটো বস্তু মই ইমান বছৰে কাম কৰি শিকিছো যে যদিও দেখাত সব স্কুল একে, সব টিচাৰ একে, যেতিয়া আমি যেতিয়া আমি ভিতৰত সোমাও, প্ৰত্যেকটো স্কুলৰ নিজৰ অসুবিধা আছে, প্ৰত্যেকটো স্কুলে এই কাৰণে আমি contextual solutions or kotha ko. Of course, larger technologies ase, larger platforms ase, kintu might be we can talk separately on this later.
Yeah. Panchali?
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Borua. Panchali, Priyanka have a question. So, IT technology education program of ji ase, especially children or karne kiba specific ase neki? Aru jodi ase, do you have any example of inclusiveness?
Yeah, I think children with special needs or kotha koise tekhete. So
Yeah.
inclusive
Okay.
koribo karone aru specifically ami keneke mane hetu koribo paru. Mane of course braille or kotha ulai, mane ami jete inclusive education or kotha ko, ba children with special needs or karone beleg methodologies hu ase. So Panchali, from your experience amak jodi olop koa.
I have moi specifically children with special needs or logot ketio kaam kora nai. যদিও প্ৰজেক্টত এটা পাৰ্ট আছিলে, বহুত মাইনৰ পাৰ্ট আছিলে about adaptive technologies for speaking and hearing impairedness, but I'm sorry, moi specifically ketio kaam kora nai, so I don't know. I really have no answer to this.
Okay. There is another, Indrani Bordolo have again this question. Can you repeat it, like what the 4 C's are? Collaboration, creative, critical thinking?
Collaboration, communication, critical thinking, and creativity.
Yeah. So another question I have, like I'm just thinking out loud, Panchali. Etia mane enuka dekha koise bahut INGO, NGO, civil society organization bure government or logot kaam korise school of. So how do you see the role of civil society or NGOs in, mainstream education? Do you see like junto eta word koa jai disinvestment, privatize, privatize kori dia goise? So do you see a similar trend in education sector?
See, that is exactly what neoliberalism and decentralization talks about. Kintu if we are getting supportive facilities from different NGOs for a school and for the benefits of student and teacher, I do not see that it's going to be a problem. But of course, there is pros and cons to everything. There is crowding of different organizations in a school. Many a times, school headmasters will tell you how frequently different organizations come to their school. But if organizations are collaboratively working with the government and other private and NGOs, civil societies, for facilitating and providing services for the students and teachers, I don't think that's a problem.
Okay, great. I just want to give an update, like in chat, it's already there. Miss Borua have put up, like, to know about inclusive education, Nistha app have some information out there, or you can directly get in touch with Tamachi Borua. It's in the chat box. You can check her email ID to know more about the kind of
Nistha.
inclusive education program is out there. So anyone have any questions, like we would love to hear from others?
মোৰ এটা কুৱেশ্যন আছে হা, দুটা কুৱেশ্যন। এটাটো হৈছে with digital education, bad things also come, you know, and because I lived in US for 25 years, that you know, things like pornography and all kind of stuff comes also. How do you make sure that, you know, আজিকালি, you know, in Minneapolis where I live, you know, sex trafficking is becoming huge, specifically teenage kids. All right, and this is also because of internet, right? It is so easily available. So how do you make sure that the bad elements are not coming with, you know, all the digital education? That is my first one. And second thing, what I have observed, I'm outside Assam for last 25 years. Itia ahi pale jetia moi dekhu, the middle class or Indians, লৰা খালি পঢ়া such a competition last few days. Oh, matric kiman result hol, kiman namai. The moms are more excited, you know, to compete about kiman percentage. The happiness index is gone. It's all about how much percentage, 90, 92, whatever. But what I've seen, even I saw with my own nephew, and most of the middle class family, last only eta apple katibo najane, eta aam katibo najane, eta omelette banai khabo najane. And then, are we making productive human beings, or what is education mean to you? You know, I'm just really, sometimes I feel, what is really education in India right now? It's about the marks and just our tuition, all that, and then we are getting away from basic life or needs. How many people are really happy? You know, there should be happiness in this rather than like all this thing. And now digital technology, I wonder it will be take it to more extreme, you know. So this is my observation, and again, I'm not into education much, so I do not know. So, but I would like to hear from you.
Yeah, so the first thing is, we know the issues of cyber security and pornography. So যেতিয়া আমি টিচাৰ্ছৰ লগত টিচাৰ প্ৰিপেয়াৰডনেছ সেশনছ কৰোঁ, cyber security and internet blocking and pornography is also discussed. It is made sure that it's not just about cyber security of students, but it's also about ethical use of internet among teachers. So etu hand in hand jai, aru a conscious effort is being made to do that. But again, school level blocking and school level monitoring needs to be constantly there. So one thing is for sure, that digital technology doesn't reduce the work of teachers. It actually increases the work of teacher in a different way. So, so I would like to add that. So that goes hand in hand. স্কটলেণ্ডত মই এটা বস্তু শিকিছোঁ টিচাৰৰ লগত যে যেতিয়াই তেওঁলোকে ক্লাছৰুমত ষ্টুডেণ্টছক ইনষ্ট্ৰাকশ্যনছ দিয়ে বা দে ৰিকুৱেষ্ট ষ্টুডেণ্টছ টু এক্সেছ অনলাইন মেটেৰিয়েল, দে অলছ' মেক শ্যোৰ দেট certain sites are blocked, certain processes of cyber security is maintained. So that ethical process also needs to be there when we are working in India, specifically Assam, and that will be a process growing. Secondly, that obsession with marks, I don't think it is specific to Assam. It is universal, and this is a debate that is universal, and I think I'm a very small player in this whole education system to answer it, but I can always challenge. And one example I would like to give of Vietnam, and this is very random. Vietnam was doing very good in PISA ranking. PISA is the students' performance. It's an international assessment for students' performance. And now, initially it was for the developed countries. Now it is also for the developing countries. And India will be joining PISA 2022. So Vietnam was doing very good in PISA, and it's still doing good in PISA, but still they required and they went for a whole systems change in 2016 because of this whole obsession about marks. So moi najano je Indian system ba Assam system eo ki dhorne enekwa dhornor change anibo pare. Definitely Delhi government has already introduced the happiness curriculum. So let's see how happiness curriculum goes. It's been there for last 2 years now. Might be Assam might think about it, or Assam is already in the process of thinking about it. I don't know. But this whole conflict, and it's an internal and societal conflict of marks versus skills, can be bridged through digital technologies where we use real life, what we say, authentic experiences. Jetia, supposing, and this is a very common example, jetia ami fractioner kotha patu, ami rutir example apply koribo paru ba for a fun activity ami ruti bonai pelao koribo paru. But yeah, this obsession is there, and I don't have any answer to it.
Yeah, that's great. Indrani Bordole madam, like apuni kiba ta experience share koribo bicharise shiক্ষক egoraki hisabe apuni koribo pare.
I teach in a school in class 10, 11 and 12. I am an English teacher in Noida. I would like to share one of my experiences. Actually, we teach nowadays through Zoom. Okay, we teach the students from home, online classes go on. And in one of the classes, one of the students sent a pornographic, while I was teaching, pornographic picture was sent. And I was taken aback. I was at a loss of words. I couldn't say anything. Then what I said at the click of the finger, they would get lots of such sites. They will be like getting this type of lots of pictures. But if they wish to be a good person in life, they should abstain themselves from these sites. Is it the reason why their parents are spending so much for their education? In that way, I counsel, and from then on, I haven't got any such experience, bad experience again. It happened in the initial session, initial time. While I was teaching, I was, couldn't even understand what it was. Then I came to know. When I knew, I could ask them to stop. I was just shouting. I had to give up. I thought that my time period for teaching was just 40 minutes. In that I cannot, we have to like write down, note down how much we have taught in our class, and I couldn't possibly give up the class. It was just a beginning. Then I went on counseling. I went on counseling for some time, and from then on, I got no such experience. And nowadays, school also, it happened with some of the other teachers also. And after that, we intimated all this to the head of the institution. And then, you see, like we keep a note of the that we have made them enter into the class. All this, strict follow-ups went on. So it happened like that. It was a bitter experience, a new experience also at the same time. And that's it. And I feel all the practical knowledge that the children should have got are not getting because of too much of pressure of studies and all. But what I feel, these experiences, once they are compelled to do, somehow they pick up. These are minor things which can be picked up by any human being easily. Initially, of course, they will find it very cumbersome, but later they will be, with experience, they will be doing it better. And they will, they will be finer in that work, like day-to-day work and all this. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
It's a very, just 1 second. Thank Indrani Baidu have put a very important point forward. Like I won't use the word censorship. It will like, যেটা internet থাকে, the whole world is your oyster. So when we talk about education, interaction, the school, এটা digital schooling কৰি আছে, how do you make children, or like, are there any technology or app or application where you can, not censor, like limit the access to things which are not required at that time? Are there any application out there anywhere in the world?
Actually, many, hello?
Yes, ma'am.
I think I'm talking to Pooja, is not it?
Yes.
Ma'am, listen, maybe there are ways to censor, but the parents should be, parents should have that much of knowledge. Many parents are not aware of all this censorship that they could, put on the mobile phone or the laptop and all this. And that is why all of a sudden it all started, and we learned to take Zoom classes after lockdown started. And in that is why we couldn't counsel also the computer teachers might be knowing all such ways. We couldn't train them also, but the only thing that we are dependent on the parents. And there is parents teachers meeting where the teachers, class teachers, talk with the parents about the problems, and they tell that they should be vigilant about what the children are doing, their wards are doing. Although they provide laptop and like computer, more Android phones to their wards and all, they should be vigilant. Many a times they connect and the children disappear from the place, because at times we keep on asking them some questions and there comes no response. We take one child's name and the child doesn't respond. It means that he has connected, but he is not at the place. So we tell the parents, we ask them to be vigilant on their wards, what they are doing. That is how studies are going on. Although maybe there we can censor and all, it depends upon the parents. It will be parents who will have to do that, take up that responsibility of putting a censorship to their wards, like gadgets and all this. But they might not be aware. Even I don't know how we can do that.
Okay, that's an important point you have forward. Thank you. Priyanshu, you have a question?
Yeah, I wanted to add, like, while we are talking about pornography and everything. So is it better to add sex education in the curriculum than to stop the children from watching porn and whatever it is? Because I myself got curious at an age to know what the thing is and what I like, what the like whatever it is, because that curiosity level increases with the in between the teenagers, and I think but it's better to teach them than to stop them, because things happen like when you come to a group, you enter a group or a or meet friends who are not that much kind enough to you to show you the right path, and you might get lost and you do something what ma'am said her student did. Yeah, so that's my point. So that's it.
Yeah. Ironically, Priyanshu,
Thanks.
Yeah.
ironically, working with digital technologies actually increase the curiosity of children. So whatever ma'am's saying is not something that we can totally deny. It's definitely the role of the parent, especially where where the subject teacher and the computer teacher or the support teacher is at a length. So it is definitely a parent's role, but then we need to think about those parents who are themselves digitally challenged. So I don't have answers to this, but I definitely know that there are ways to block it.
No, it's means ma'am, I didn't mean that. I mean, like, we are making this as a taboo, like, and we are just taking this away from them, and we're making them feel as if there is something bigger in that. So
True.
why,
I'm
yeah,
not denying that.
we're just
I'm
giving
not
the curiosity to them, and they're just coming towards that, and they feel that it's important to know at the age. Yeah, I have met many of my friends. They would just talk about it, like they're cool about it. Like I am cool about it, but not everyone. Like their parents are cool. That's what. Like,
sure.
but
So that's why
yeah.
we talk about cyber security, cyber ethics. We are talking, of course, a sex education curriculum is a larger and is associated, but then it's a larger schema in the education system, and that needs a whole lot of discussion in itself. But then when it comes to activities where they are sharing porn screens during a Zoom session, this is not just I am really sorry that this has happened with Miss Indrani, but this happened in for a few cases in Singapore, and Singapore blocked Zoom. As a country, they have blocked Zoom for education. So there are a lot of processes on the computer itself where you can add blockers. There are specific channels. I'm sure the computer ed tech people will know much more. Technical people will know much more. And but then there are independent device blockers, website blockers. While we are doing a live session, we can block it. But then again, the more blocking it happens, there is a flip side where ma'am just mentioned that you might not even know how the student is responding. That's again a challenge that many of the Scottish teachers talk about, that they don't know what the students are responding or not responding, because most of them are either muted, so they all sign in, but there is no way to monitor if they are on the laptop or on the device or not. Yes, many of them use cameras for Zoom sessions and other kind of synchronized learning. But again,
And
these are
don't switch on
challenges
your
that
video.
come with digital technologies.
I feel
Yes,
I
ma'am.
think sex education, if like to make them aware of all these things, if we can meet them face to face and if we can teach them, it would be better, but not online. Nothing. I think it won't be comfortable for
Yeah.
the teachers also. You never know how they react. When we can see them by face, then we can tell them, we can make them aware. I
Yeah.
think it's better if we can make them aware of it and make them take things easy.
But I just have a question here. I don't have an answer. I have a question here for all the teachers. If if this blended learning and if this online distant learning is going to be the norm, especially if the pandemic is on, we will have situations where we will not be able to do a lot of face-to-face session, and we will have limited time for such sessions. Then how do we, I don't want answers right now. I'm just thinking, how do we have a midway where we can do, say, sex education, counseling, effectively through a distance process?
Ma'am, I teach in a convent school. You know, there are some ethics that we follow. And we have 7 principles in our school. For example, the mottos, we call them mottos of our school. Like be grateful, be bonded, be respectful, then be passionate, be proactive, be punctual. There was one more thing, be positive. These are the mottos of our school. So after all these things, it was not only my experience, it was they were asked to just.
Yes, ma'am, you can unmute. Yes,
Panchali, like I think we have overshoot the time, but can you briefly explain about happiness curriculum?
Yeah, ma'am was talking about
I have not worked in happiness curriculum. It's a separate curriculum, very specific to Delhi. As much as I know, it has been adopted from the Bhutanese happiness curriculum, and it talks about capabilities. Do you want me to actually talk about happiness curriculum at length now?
No, like just in like 1 minute or 2 minutes, can you summarize a little bit about it?
Okay, yes. So it's a curriculum which was introduced from nursery to class 8. So it's primary and middle school. And the teachers were trained on 4 concepts: create happiness, happy, content, confident, and meaningful children. And if you want to know more about it, I could share the link with you. It's on the Delhi government.
Yeah, that would be great. Like if you can share it so that we can put it in Facebook, or anyone wants to know more about it can, you know, email us so that we can share the resources which Panchali will share with us.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Panchali, for making time. I know it's like quite mid-morning. You have taken the time out to talk to us. I think speaking overall, like it has been very enriching in all ways. So thanks all the participants. I think majority of them have already left, but thank you so much. And like if any of the participant wants have any more issues regarding education would like to talk, like can write it to us at Anajuri, and we'll make sure we'll try to be as inclusive as possible. So I think we can wrap up the meeting now. Yeah, thank you everyone.
Thank you, Panchali. Thank you everyone for joining in. We'll have more interactive sessions in the next few weeks. So keep tuning in to our Anajuri page.
Yeah.
And it's great to have you all. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.